So in this video, we're going to be shooting an interview setup, and we're just here in an apartment. Often when you're working with clients, you got to shoot testimonial videos. It's just one person on camera, but you don't always have necessarily control of the locations you're shooting. You know, if a client wants to be doing a testimonial video about their clients or customers, you have to go to their homes or in these office buildings. It's not necessarily always a place that you get to choose and control. So we're here in an apartment today, and we're going to make this look as best as possible and work with the lighting that we have. I'm only going to be using one light at a time. I have an FX3 here, a couple lenses. We have of course, the Helios 58 mil, and I have a Sigma 24 mil here, and I have the new Polar Pro Helix magnetic ND filters and like a mist filter. I'm only going to be using one light at a time for this video. I have the Zhiyun G200. This is a tiny little 250 watt light, but you can go to max mode and get 300 watt output. It's like about a $350, $400 light. It's really affordable. You can see it has a Bowens mount, so you can throw this 90 softbox. I also have my Amaran light here that I could use. It's smaller light, a bit more usable, like workable in an apartment because it's so shallow, which I kind of like that about this light. The only issue about this light is the ballast has a pretty noisy fan. So if you're in a quiet room, your mic will pick it up. Whereas this G200, although the softbox is bigger and takes up more space, it's very quiet, which I like. So the first thing I do when I come into a location like this is when it's not obvious where the interview should happen, you know, just sometimes the geography, as you can see in this apartment, you know, our light's being motivated this way, which might be easier to shoot. But then if we pan over here, you can see this part of the room is not necessarily an ideal background. I wouldn't necessarily want to shoot into this dark background just with the kitchen here. I would say there's more interest in terms of depth this way. So even just for me looking at this right now, I'm thinking if I can kind of control the windows here, we have these slats I'm seeing. I literally have not scouted this at all. We just got here, so I'm just going to see if even some of these work. Okay, that's the bottom, but I'm going to see if I can actually adjust this. Okay, this is good. I have control of these. So you can even see right now I'm able to darken these a bit more. With how bright those are, I know they're going to blow out in the background, so I'm thinking if I can turn these, yeah, you can see I'm already bringing that light down. Where would I want to have our subject? We'll see. For me, there's always a certain part where you can talk all day about the shot, but I want to get my camera actually up and start looking at areas of where I would film the interview. This is Elisha. She's our talent today. If you might recognize her from Module 1, like on our first lighting tutorial we ever did. You're back. Yes. So Elisha, I'll have you come sit just on the edge of this couch here. Again, like you've probably been seeing in this course, the first thing you do is you turn off all the lights in the house and start seeing what the actual lighting looks like without the house lights, because usually house lights are going to be your least ideal or least pretty lights on camera. They're just, house lighting is always just meant to throw light everywhere in the room. I'm just going to power up my FX3 here. I'm using a small HD, I believe this is their Action 5, thank you. Our camera operator, RJ, remembers the name. They're actually discontinuing this, which is sad, is the rumor I've heard. But I have my FX3 here, and I'm on a 16-35. I know I'm not going to shoot the interview on this, so I may switch the lens, but the nice thing about having the 16-35 right now is I can get a pretty good idea of the frame size if I wanted to go wide, or I just punch it on the 35. All right, so we've just set up our first interview shot here. I'm on the 16-35. I'm at 35 mil. Again, like I said, I probably won't use this lens. I typically don't shoot interviews on it. And what I can tell you already with this shot is I hate it. If the client wanted to have a nice bright shot, perhaps, but there's no shape. If there's anything that you've learned so far with the cinematic eye, it's that when you can, it's better to shape the light. just having some more shadow is just more interesting, it's more dynamic. And right now, this entire frame is pretty much the same luminance. You have this big white wall up here that's just doing nothing for me. The couch is, I don't mind the leading lines, but I even wonder this position that I have Elisha in just isn't gonna work for an interview, because if, the natural thing would be to have your interviewer right here and then you can look at my hand here, Elisha. It's just, I don't know, there's just not much going on for me here. So I'm wanting to reposition this. And that's the next question, is where I put her in the room and how we shape this light will kind of be motivated by the emotional tone typically of this piece. And so if this was maybe a film about someone's mental health journey or something like that, maybe I'd want to have a bit more of a moodier tone to the aesthetic. And so, we might want some more shape and shadow. If this was really bright and happy, it's about a client's product and what they love and what they like about the product, then maybe I'll go with a bit of a brighter look. Right now, we're kind of just going to be optioning a few different looks for you guys. We don't necessarily have a tone motivating this piece. I'm more so just wanting to see what we can get out of this room. So what I'm thinking, and usually what I do, is when I'm struggling with a place, if it's really bright and the background isn't working, I'll start by going maybe to a bit more of a shallower lens. And so I'm going to start with the Helios here. I wish I had a 35 mil with me. That would have been the perfect focal length, which I guess I do on this, but the 35 at 2.8 isn't as shallow as I'd like. So we're going to throw the Helios on here. And what I'm thinking is, I feel like I'm really fighting these windows in this shot right now. Well, not too bad, because this light is so bright. But I'm going to throw her on a chair here in the middle of the room on the Helios, and we'll see what that looks like instead. But actually, just before that, since I have her here, let's just look if I wanted to shape this light. I'm going to extend my 200 out here, G200. I'm going to bring this over here. You can already see in the shot how much more shape we're getting. We're, of course, getting a little bit of the light in the shot. But I'm hanging this more over her. Putting a light directly over someone will be a bit more dramatic. And I feel like I need to ND this down now a bit. Thread the filter back on. This is the threaded filter. We do have the Helix system from Polar Pro today, which is magnetic. But I don't mind a classic threaded filter. They're easier to manage, in my opinion. Okay, so this needs a bit more light now, but you're seeing it's getting a bit more moody. Elisha, what would it look like? I'm just curious. It might not be that comfortable, but if you came off a bit more if you sat up a bit more there. Like, yeah, if you now scoot your butt back a bit more. Yeah, that's cool. It's just feeling like, if you look right here, yeah, that's feeling a bit more it's not totally natural, but you could pull it off. I know someone like Elisha could, who's comfortable on camera. So right now I'm at 10% here, 5600 Kelvin. I'm just going to increase this a bit here, a bit more. And then why I like using a small HD monitor is I'm going to quickly throw on the exposure, my false colors here. So you can see with the false colors, we actually have, we can go a bit brighter with this, because her skin tone here, I want to kind of get that into the 50 to 60 IRE, and it's pretty dark. So I'm just going to crank up my luminance here a bit more. But now you can see we're getting a hot spot on that wall behind her. I'm starting to notice, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to option, because I'm noticing that I really like this background, but I'm going to see if I can make this wall work. But let's pull this couch off the wall just a bit. So I should just hop up. And then if you mind pulling that end out a bit more. There you go. And then hop back in, Elisha. Just pulling that a little bit off the wall. There you go. And if imagine I was interviewing, sometimes you're just by yourself doing all of this. So I'm just going to adjust this here. You can look at me right here, Elisha. Yeah, I don't mind it. It's certainly what we call sourcey. Like, you can certainly tell, I'm going to just dial this back a bit, that she's being lit, but it's actually not too bad of a frame. Getting a little bit of the background of the windows there, and we're getting some of the plants there. So yeah, you're looking at me here. talking. Yeah, hey, how's it going? Tell me a bit about your life. Yeah. I could bring it back a little bit. I'm actually going to just try one last thing before we change setups here. I'm going to throw this grid on here. And what it does is, rather than letting this light, see how this light is kind of hitting this wall here on the frame? The grid is going to control the direction of the light more. It's going to stop it from spilling as much as it is. The only issue with the grid is it can cut a little bit of the light, and it's not necessarily as soft, because remember, a wider source that has more diffusion and more of a throw will be a softer source. You'll have a slower gradient in the shadows. So the grid will stop some of that, but it also should stop it from hitting this wall as much as it is. Because I don't have, I'm shooting limited gear today. I don't have a flag. Otherwise, I could flag that off. But let me just quickly Velcro all of this in. Sorry, is that hitting your face?
Oh, it did.
It did? Okay. Oh, yeah. Be careful. Don't injure your talent if they're really high maintenance. Let me come back to my shot here. Yeah, much darker as expected, but, ooh, wow. Jeez. Let's do the before and after here. You can definitely see before how much softer and wider, and then with this grid on here, just how much more moody this is. Wow. Let me kick up some more on this. Boom, 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 boom. I'm going to tilt down a little more. And Elisha looking here. Yeah, the one thing now with the grid is because it's not as soft, you're starting to see a little bit more shadow underneath her eye. So I'm going to actually kind of reposition this so it's a bit more frontal to try to get rid of some of that. And now that I've reduced my headroom, although I'm going to bring it back up, I find a lot of people will shoot either too close or they'll sometimes just give too much kind of random headroom. It's not a bad shot with all that headroom, but I typically like to keep the eyes between the 25 and 35% of the top part of the frame. It's kind of a general rule. I just came up with that percentage, but you'll feel out your framing. Yeah, so there's one option. Again, like I said, kind of moody, but I could use this. Genuinely, I feel like I could use this for someone talking about a bit of a heavier subject, just because we do have a bit of a darker background there. Because the G200 does have so much output, I just love it. It's so tiny. It's like this big. You can just throw it in a bag. It has a little ballast here. Because it is so powerful, I am kind of able to overpower the lights. And the first thing you saw that we did when we came to set is we controlled those windows in the background. But let's try one more. I'm going to swap a lens. I'm going to put her in the middle of the room. And I'm just going to showcase a bit more of this so that I'm not fighting this awkward position. Sometimes having someone in a chair is the right call. So we're going to reposition this room now. Elisha, you can hop out of there. So here's Elisha. Elisha, imagine just looking here. If this feels like a shot from this angle, kind of when you put someone in the center of frame, you kind of want them looking to the lens. So just looking at the lens now, Elisha. This is her telling her story here. Again, we have really dramatic lighting on that right side of her face. So what I might do is, first I will straighten the angle because I'm not fully straight. We have this set up. To me, though, it's showcasing a bit too much of the room. I'm going to swap onto the Helios just for a sec to kind of feel what this could look like. So if you don't want to burn your talent out, and what I mean by that is having someone sit here, I wouldn't do this to the person I'm interviewing. This is taking too long. Is bring a PA along or get someone on your crew to sit in so you can come like an extra hour or 2 hours early. So you have time to kind of mess around with the frame and play with it. Try the grid on, try the grid off. Sometimes you have to move a bit quicker. But let me push this light back up close again. Yeah, this is a vibe. I'm going to pull off the grid because now that we don't have the white wall around us, it would be nice to have a bit of a softer look. I don't necessarily want to have just this direct light falling over top of her. So we'll just pull this grid off. It's going to be way brighter. Put this over here. Wow, way, way, way brighter. This is like what I would say, this is like a client testimonial. She's looking at the lens and she's saying how much she loves the product the client has and everything. She loves it. I love the product. That's what she just meant. Bring this over here so I can look at it while I dial it in. There's actually an app I could be using as well. Yeah, if we wanted to make this a bit more moody,
could kind of drop the light down. Now we're in like that 20 degree thing, or 20% range rather. I'll also show you one more option here. Elisha, let's have you clock your chair 45 degrees. You know, if you had a 2-camera setup, you could get a second shot somewhere in this range here. And I would brighten this up just slightly. And then move your chair this way a bit. Yeah, right there. And then looking like, imagine I was sitting here. So like rotate your chair a bit more to face this. Perfect, right there like that, yeah. You know, in the end, I think because we're not doing a video where she's looking directly to camera, she's looking to someone right here. Looking here, Elisha? Like right here? Is that where you're looking? Wow. Okay. Just gonna open up just a little here. Yeah, looking again here. Yeah, somewhere in there. So just to give a quick review on this lighting, I'm coming fairly far above her. It's because I'm not wanting to throw too much light onto the background, so I'm coming a bit more top. But because it's such a big light, it is softer. You can see on Elisha's face, we're now not casting any shadows underneath her eyes. And then also, I'm shooting on the opposite side of the shadows. That's your classic position for a camera, putting the camera on the opposite side of where the light is, and then putting your interviewer in the middle here. So in this case, we've had to kind of embrace the room that we've had. We had these big windows, as you saw, shooting against that white wall when we were hiding the windows wasn't working. So I'm just embracing what the windows are doing. And because the sun is above us today, I'm not worried about sunlight coming in. We're shooting this kind of in the middle of the day, so I can shoot with the windows because light's not going to be pouring in. And with the Helios, as you can see, we get some beautiful dappling back there. And if you open the Helios completely wide, it flares out, which we didn't want to do. I would tilt this down just a little more. It's a nice frame. You're looking at me, we could do our interview. Perfect. Awesome. So that's quickly, I actually probably wouldn't change much more in this room. I'm not sure what else I would do. I mean, the 24 mil is not going to look that good. Although, just for the sake of it, why don't I throw the 24 mil on and move wide just so you guys can see what that looks like. But I wouldn't trust it. Here's the 24 mil. It's so hectic. Got to get in nice and close. Oh gosh. The one nice thing with the 24 mil, and we might need to swap lens ND filters, is we can really shallow out the background. It's actually kind of fun, to be honest. Yeah, looking at the lens there, Elisha, right at the lens. And then let's do one where you're looking at me here. I'm just gonna look at this monitor. When I'm working by myself, I really like to have a monitor just because while I'm moving around the room, I might be over here tweaking a light. I like being able to see it from a distance. So yeah, looking at me here, just making eye contact with me there. Yeah, you know what, the 24 mil isn't terrible. I'll show you, the further you pan a light away, the more shadow it will create on the far side. So as I pan this off, you're gonna see on Elisha's face, this is really far off here, just how dramatic this is. Here's really dramatic. This is her talking about a heavy subject. And then we just move this in, and this is her now. This is her talking about the products she loves, the testimony, yeah. You can just see that just by where you're tilting the light. All I'm doing is panning off to the side here. It can give a whole different feel to a shot. So there you go. We've had a few options. Like I've mentioned, we could have put her on the couch, but was finding that just the white wall was just bring too much attention to itself. And then it just became a game of what tone, what emotion we wanted to set. Because we adjusted the blinds in the background, we had control at this point of the lighting in the room, and we've just been using one light. So having one smaller light that's a bit brighter, you know, the G200 is great. It packs down really tight. You can bring it everywhere. It's quiet. In the end, we had a lot of different options. If we had a client, we could show them a few. But in this case, it's just me shooting, so I'm going to make the decision of what I want to shoot. So there you go.